Hello. How is everyone? I'm going to, as usual, wait a few minutes and give people some time to hop on. See if anyone's there. Oh, there we go. We have some people showing up. Good. And let's see, bring it up on my computer so I can see your questions as they come in. Oh, there I am. I hate the way I look on video. Okay, I said 6:15 or 6:30. I have 6:20, so we'll wait just another minute or two. Give people a chance to hop on. I want to show you something cool that I got today. This is what I'm putting my phone in. I'm turning it around. It's a little cell phone holder. Do you see it? But do you see what it says? Presume competence. Isn't that cool? I just love it. Judy gave that to me today. She picked it up. Judy DeFonso gave that to me, so that was exciting. It's my little... Okay, so turn around, camera. Okay, good. Well, I know a lot of people say, why did you ever do Facebook Lives in the evening? And mostly it's because my house is a circus and I can't do them in the evening. But my son had a class tonight and my husband said he'd take him. So, hey, I said I have an hour or two of quiet to myself, so let's go ahead and do this. Ooh, I do look kind of... And you know, I did a Facebook Live yesterday and I was wearing a shirt that said Sea Isle, and now I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says Sea Isle. I do have other clothes, I promise. I don't wear everything that just says Sea Isle. Anyway, okay, I went to, today we had Right to Ed, Judy and I, and for those of you who don't know, it's something we have in Pennsylvania. And basically ours is, it's in addition to a meeting that we have every month, after our business meeting, we invite in a guest speaker. And today's guest speaker was someone from Devereaux Behavioral Health, and he taught us how to assess what is a good quality FBA. How do you know if your FBA has been done well, done accurately, and solid and all that. In addition to that, as you all know, I have the blog, and behind the scenes I can see but I can see what posts are getting read most frequently. And from, let's say, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I have a very popular blog post that spikes in popularity, and it's called Dear School, Stop Calling Me to Come Pick Up My Kid. That post has gone crazy since Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So as I said today in Right to Ed, the honeymoon is over, so to speak, in that the new school year is not new anymore. I think in the new school year you have a honeymoon, you have kids, you have teachers, everybody's on their best behavior, adjusting to their new environment and new classmates and everything. And then right around this time is when it's like I said, the honeymoon's over, and kids who are struggling to hold it together, and things like that. It just things bubble to the surface, so to speak. And that blog post being as popular as it has been for the past 2 days tells me that for sure the honeymoon is over and parents are looking for assistance with, being called. You're getting called to come pick up your kid. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a like if that's an issue for you, if the school calls you to come pick up your child during the day. And if you have any questions about that, I'm going to get into that. But to get started, first of all, please remember that if the school calls you to come pick up your child during the school day, they have been suspended, okay? That's sometimes a tough pill to swallow. And then parents say to me, oh, no, he wasn't suspended. They just called me to come pick him up. But actually, in the eyes of the law, so to speak, it is considered a suspension. The child was removed from their current placement, which is, I believe, the exact wording in IDEA. Wait a second, I had that up on my screen. It says in the code, for purposes of removal of a child with a disability from the child's current educational placement. So basically your child was in their classroom and the school said, hey, you need to come get him. He's been removed from his current placement. That is what is a suspension, whether they call it that or not. A lot of times I know they do just call and say, oh, he's having a really rough day. Can you come get him? But it's unfortunately it is a suspension. So what to do if this happens? Of course, my school of thought is always you want to get the school to help you fix this, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But I had one parent on Facebook say yesterday that she doesn't mind at all. She wants to come pick up her kid every time they call because she said, I hate to think of my child in fight or flight syndrome and being sad or being anxious or whatever the case may be. She hates to think of her child in that scenario and, be all alone or be at school or be where people aren't helping him, so to speak, where they just want to, pass him along to someone else. And I get that. I hear that. And I even say in the blog post, I would rather be called because my child's vomiting than my child is having a meltdown, because vomiting I can deal with, and a meltdown, I hate to think that my child would have, a hurt heart or an upset heart rather than an upset stomach, because it's, an upset stomach we can deal with. So I hear that you want to help your child, you want to be there for them, but at the same time, you have to teach your child coping mechanisms, and we have to really look at the antecedents and make sure that, maybe we can stop this behavior. So the first question I have from a parent is there a difference if the child is on a behavior plan? Well, ideally, yes, but it depends on what your behavior plan says. A solid FBA has included several classroom observations, and in those observations, hopefully, you want to get times when you are asking for this FBA and you're doing the FBA, you want to encourage them to come during the times that you think the behaviors are most occurring. So whether that be mornings, afternoons, Mondays, whatever it is, you want to encourage them to observe the child when they're most likely to have a behavior. And then you want them to observe the antecedent, behavior, and consequence. All behavior tells you something. So what is this behavior telling you? What is the behavior that led to the school calling you to come get your child? And then you have to look at that behavior and say, what is the function of that behavior? It's serving a need, some kind of need that the child has. So whether it's a sensory need or whether it's escape, avoidance, those are some really common ones, but you have to determine what the need is from that behavior and address it that way. So my pet peeve is that my child's schools treat their schools as mainstream, and they are not. My 3-year in special education. Yes, it's inclusion is important, but it has to be done correctly for sure. My daughter does not tolerate the football players greeting her. Yeah, it's sometimes it's a relatively easy fix like that. Other times it can be something that's not so obvious. It might be more nuanced. It might be lack of a skill set, such as, lack of reading ability. If it's a lack of executive functioning skills, and that the child doesn't know how to initiate a task, or the child doesn't know how to start a project, they might be sitting there being disruptive because they lack the skill set to initiate the assignment that they were just told to do. My son has an IEP, he's in a charter school. They've decided to transfer him to a therapeutic school. Just remember that all placement, if it's behavior related or otherwise, all placement is a team decision. You certainly have your rights as a parent to exercise your procedural safeguards if you do not agree with the team decision. In the meantime, he is kicked out of school. I don't know. It sounds like there might be more to this story. There certainly are some circumstances, bodily harm, drugs, weapons, things like that. There are certain circumstances where your child can be kicked out, disability or not, and that they don't have to necessarily give you the same options that other children with disabilities have. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. But a charter school is considered a public school. So they are bound to IDEA just like everyone else. Learn IDEA, no child should be sent home for behaviors, get a behavior plan in place. Yeah, so that's the first step, is either if your child is being sent home for behaviors, either they need a behavior plan, or the one they have is inadequate or inappropriate, or it's not being followed. So it's one of those three things, and you need to get to the root of that and get a good behavior assessment and determine what that is. Finally admitted he wasn't getting enough attention. Yes, certain behaviors are attention seeking, so that could certainly be it. If by enough attention, maybe you mean more one-on-one teaching, because again, if a child lacks a set of skills that are required, they may act out if they don't have that. So if it's a manifestation of a disability, yes. Weren't giving him a chance to calm down. It was a tantrum, got sent home, even if calm after. Okay, then it sounds like, well, I mean, I don't know if you're in agreement with the placement or not, but if you're not, even in the new placement, he needs to have a solid behavior plan, and not just to prevent and address the behaviors that are happening right now, but you also need to have a crisis management plan. So if it does escalate to full meltdown, what is going to be done? And you need to get that clearly defined in the behavior plan. If it's not being followed, what's the next thing to do? Just like any other part of the IEP, a behavior plan, if it's part of the IEP, it's part of the IEP, and you do whatever you're doing if they're not following the IEP. So I would start with your team leader and, talk with them about, hey, my child is reporting this, or this and this is happening, but his IEP says this. And then you just take it from there. There's incremental steps you can take. If you don't get resolution with your IEP team leader, you can go up through administration and so on. And I actually have a post on the blog with, I think, 10 or 12 steps of what to do if your IEP isn't being followed. And it's incremental from least to most severe of things that you can do if your IEP is not being followed. Son has an IEP and he gets bullied. That triggers him and he acts out. This is very common, very, very, very common, that a child, defends themselves and then they get in trouble as well. The school has a responsibility to keep your child safe and to keep your child from being bullied. Again, there's incremental steps. Start with the teacher and whoever's handling this behavior, or who's handling it when your child is getting suspended, and take it from there. You can ask for manifestation hearings. They don't have to give you one. Per IDEA, there's different thresholds of 10 or 15 days of being suspended where they have to give you a manifestation hearing. You can still ask for them and ask that the team get together and determine if these behaviors are a manifestation of disability. Even if they say no, it shows that you're being proactive and trying to solve the problem, so that if it persists, you have more argument on your side that, hey, I've been trying to fix this and you all just keep suspending him, and I've asked for manifestation hearings, I've asked for functional behavior assessment, and so on. But as far as bullying, I know all these schools today say, oh, we do not tolerate bullying, and yet, like every day I hear reports of kids being bullied, which is sad and disheartening. But they are required to stop it and just document every single situation and keep going up the chain until it stops. And if you need one, you can search for a template called a Gebser letter, and you can send what is known as have a lawyer work with you and send what is known as a Gebser letter, which means that you've been informed that this bullying is occurring and it's your responsibility to stop it. Okay. Can you install a no restraint in the IEP? Yes and no. Yes, you can ask for it as part of your child's crisis plan, especially if restraint is going to escalate the situation. You can document that. I would make sure that it's documented heavily throughout the IEP and behavior plan. At the same time, let's say your child's an eloper. At the same time, if your child's an eloper and he starts to run out into traffic, they're going to restrain him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if something happens and, your child tries to attack another child or something like that, I mean, you can't, there's just some situations that are going to call for restraint. So you can get it written in there, but there's still going to be situations where the school can say, hey, he was going to run out into traffic. We had to grab him. Okay. So yes and no, I guess, on that one. If so, it would be a suitable option for no restraint. I don't know if you all necessarily mean restraint or seclusion. Because they get paired together a lot, but they're not necessarily the same thing. I know that there's a lot of calm down rooms and things like that that are being used, and they get overused, in my opinion. But if that further escalates your child, that definitely needs to be noted in the IEP, and you need to have other options. I do find that some schools tend to be very reactive rather than proactive, so help them. Make this easier for them. Rather than coming to them, and one advocate at the meeting today pointed this out, rather than coming to them with, hey, this is my child, and you're doing your job wrong, and here's how you can do it right. Change it a little bit so that you're problem solving for them, as far as, hey, my child acts out and he has behaviors, and this is what I've found is successful in de-escalating the situation, calming him down, curbing the behavior, and things like that. You need to figure out, if you don't want restraint and seclusion, if you want that in your child's IEP, that it not be used, you need to ask the question of why and when it's being used, and just find alternatives for that. Okay? Doesn't FBA have to be performed by a BCBA? My son. So best practice? Yes, it does. It should. Does that always happen? No, certainly not. You generally have to give the school a chance to evaluate the child. So if you disagree with the evaluation that they do, which would include an FBA, you have certainly the right to ask for an independent eval. I will send out, as soon as Dr. Allen from Devereaux, he's going to send me the PowerPoint and the checklists that he gave us today during his presentation. I'm going to send those out as far as what to look for in a good FBA. But he also talked about, what he does and what he recommends as a clinician is very different from what actually takes place in schools. And, to kind of focus on maybe 2 or 3 main behaviors, making sure that you're addressing them and their antecedents and so on and so forth. But yes, best practice is that it's done by a BCBA, but that doesn't always happen. So my son just turned 2, nonverbal, having horrible tantrums. The best thing I can say is that all behavior tells you something. So you just have to figure out what he's trying to tell you. And if it's lack of communication, then, sometimes what you might want to do is hold out 2 items, maybe a juice box and a toy or whatever, whatever you think that it might be, to give him choices so that he has a way to express himself. But also 2 is not really too young to start working with someone professionally. Especially since I know what condition your child has. Since it's the same as mine, and it's not too early to start working with behaviorists, because we have a better idea of kids like ours, what their trajectory is going to look like. So I would, again, start working with someone, because all behavior tells you something at any age, any ability or different ability, no matter what you have, all behavior has an antecedent, and all behavior tells you something. So you just have to figure out what that is and take it from there. I've been picking up my son. He's got a soiled diaper. I hate that. I'm so sad, and he wants friends. Oh, absolutely. I would ask for a friend, or ask for him to be paired with someone, or if you even know another parent in the school who you could approach and say, hey, do you think your child would do this? Social relationships are very important. So, daughter's extremely shy. How can we help her? She's probably very dependent on the teacher, because the teacher's safe. It's a safe person. She's probably been taught to rely on adults and stable adults, because they're solid, and they're more predictable probably than her classmates. But again, you could, if her social skills are, or if her lack of skills is interfering with social relationships, you just have to find out what's motivating for her, and set goals, and have someone work with her as far as, stepping out of that shell. So there's got to be someone there who she has something in common with, and just kind of take like one small win that you can get, and just build from there. How does an independent eval work? I'm getting my own done, but they said they won't use mine, but we'll review it. Oh, good, great. So an independent eval, first you ask the school to evaluate your child. Then they either evaluate your child or tell you they won't. From there, you generally take the steps, or you make the decision of requesting an independent eval. There are certain criteria. And first of all, parents, there's a misnomer out there that parents think they have a right to an independent eval, and you don't. You have the right to ask for one. The school can say no, and they usually do say no. But you can ask for one. There are certain criteria that you should meet, and you don't have to meet all of them, but there are certain criteria you should meet before asking for one. One is that if you just disagree with the information from their evaluation, that would be one. The other would be that you disagree with the credentials or qualifications of their evaluator. So if, for example, a gen ed teacher did your FBA, that might be some really good criteria to get an outside eval FBA done by a BCBA. Trying to think of the others. Oh, they may have used a protocol or an assessment tool that was not appropriate for your child. So, because not all evaluations and all tests are appropriate for every child. Not every test has been calibrated for a child with autism, or for a child who struggles with reading and decoding, or is nonverbal, those kinds of things. So there's different criteria, but you ask for the independent eval. Either you get it or you don't. And if you don't, you decide what you want to do, if you want to file for due process. If you get it, or if you decide to do it on your own, even if the school pays for it, or if you pay for it, the language says that the school only has to consider, and I hate that word, they have to consider the information. So it sounds like that's what your school has told you, that they'll consider the information, but they're not going to use it. What that does, however, is that it makes your case stronger if you do decide to file for due process or mediation. It makes your case stronger, because the school is saying, well, we're offering this, and you can say, well, I had her evaluated by this person, and they're recommending this, and you take it from there. Got a school meeting tomorrow. Any tips? Well, if they're sending them home, this is what we've been talking about a lot in the beginning. Just, you want an FBA, done. I would tell them that if they haven't done one already, you want an FBA, because you want to figure out, first of all, you want to kind of get the data on what behavior is getting them to send him home, and then look at that behavior and what's causing it. What are the antecedents, and how can you start to change and model this behavior so that he's not having a meltdown? Again, all behavior tells you something. So why is he melting down? And that's something for you and he and the team to discuss. You have your own private BCBA. Okay. School's not allowing it. I mean, you can still get an FBA done. It doesn't have to be by your BCBA. You can still get another BCBA to do it. So what do you do when you find so many things wrong with the IEP and you know? What I tell parents, because most parents come to me with nothing more than a gut feeling of something's not right, something's wrong here, and they don't know where to focus, start at the beginning. Look at present levels. It's near the beginning of the IEP. Look at the present levels section of the IEP. That is the section that drives the IEP. It's the section that drives the IEP goals. And then the goals are, of course, what drive supports and services. So look at present levels. Make sure it's all there. Everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Make sure, again, make sure all your child's areas of need, their strengths, everything should be in present levels. If they're not, you want to ask for more evaluations, okay? And just take it from there. And if present levels is fine, then move on to the next section. Look at goals. Are the goals appropriate? And so on. What's an FBA? An FBA is a functional behavior assessment. I have a full explanation of an FBA on the blog, and that was actually written by Stacy, who is she's in the Facebook group, and she's a BSc. So it wasn't written by me, it was written by a behavior person, but she explains it all in there. So just go to A Day in Our Shoes and in the search bar, type in FBA, and it's all there. Excuse me. If your child's missing school due to a frequent illness that is related to her disability or related to a disability, yeah, you can definitely have a plan in place as far as, does she need to be taught the work? Can she do it on her own? Those are the kinds of things the IEP team has to work out. And again, you just request it in writing and follow the process. If you're able to demonstrate need, just take it from there. And if you call them, hold on. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone. Stop. I know you guys can't see this stuff popping up on my screen when I'm reading it. If you request an IE, districts, if they say no, yes, the district must file due process. The parent doesn't have to file due process. The school does. So, I do have a blog post on the blog about evaluations and about requesting an IEE. And in there, I do strongly suggest that before you request an IEE, that you do have all your ducks in a row. And I think I even have a little picture of rubber ducks in a row. You do have to have all your ducks in a row before you request an IEE for that reason. Because more and more, as parents learn more, it just, you just hear more stories. So schools are required, if they're going to deny this, they're required to file for due process. And most, I find, are denying independent evals because most parents are scared of due process. Depending on where you live, if you're not ready for it, basically you get your PWN and it's going to say, hey, we filed for due process. You basically have a week or two to look at this and decide, like, are we going to lawyer up and go to due process or not? Oh, sorry, you're right. You said the parent to decide what to do and possibly. You're right. That was my fault. But yes, the school will say no. If the school says no, they will file for due process. I guess yes, I should be very clear about that. If you request an IEE and the school says no, they're going to file for due process as they're required to do. So get your ducks in a row. Make sure you have all the data you need, because you're not going to have a lot of time to contact specialists and contact other, perhaps like independent evaluators and things like that, to decide. And yes, they do get it to parents to back off, because if you're not expecting it and you're not ready, that's kind of a scary thing. I mean, it's an administrative hearing. It's a serious situation. So it's not for the faint-hearted. I never recommend that you do it without an attorney. So it's a big decision. And sorry, sometimes I just start rambling and talking and don't think clearly. But yes, if you do decide to do the independent eval on your own, which is what a lot of parents decide to do, and maybe this is what I was thinking in my head and didn't say so clearly, you think like, oh, well, I could hire a lawyer for $5,000 to $10,000, or I could just pay for this independent eval that might be anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000, depending on the eval. And parents get these evals, they give it to the school, and the school says, great, yeah, we'll consider it, and they don't do anything. That's when the parents would have to decide, if you truly believe in this independent eval and the results of the evaluation and the recommendations of the evaluation, that's when you have a decision to make. If the school is just saying, oh, great, yeah, we'll consider the information, that's when you have to decide if you're going to push and file for due process on that. Okay. Sorry, no, that's fine. I just, this is what happens when I do these unplanned and I don't have anything written down. And I just start talking about a zillion things at once. So, okay, so if your child's been sent home, again, ask for an FBA. Make sure that you are documenting it. So go into the school office, just like you would sign them out for a dentist appointment. Or anything else, and put on there that, why you're taking that child home, because you need this documented everywhere, because your child's being suspended. And they're required to, if it happens 5 or 10 times, then you might be meeting that threshold of a manifestation hearing. In which case, if it's a manifestation of a disability, it goes right into an FBA. Let's see. Requesting social goals. Good luck with that. Let's see. Transportation time limited. I've gathered social data on what they could do. Again, I think that's great. I think just present it to them as you're trying to help them and work collaboratively with them, and that we want to work together to help the child. Not I'm trying to tell you how to do your job. And I think if it's all in writing. They want to do an FBA, basically because he refuses to do any work in school. So for those of you who aren't reading it, she wants to know her son's getting an FBA, and it's because of task refusal. He's refusing to do any work or at home, and she doesn't understand how an FBA will help. So this is a great example. A good FBA will kind of tell you, like, all behavior tells you something. So he's refusing to do the task. Why? Maybe you already know that. So maybe in your mind you don't. Is it that he doesn't have the skill set to do whatever work is being presented to him? Does he lack executive functioning skills? So therefore, a lot of kids who don't have executive function skills can't initiate a task. That's another one. If a mom said to me today, she's like, my son just doesn't have a start button. She said, I have to push his start button. She said, even if I show it to him and show him his own, like, you have the start button, he cannot initiate a task. Once you get him going, he's fine. But they're trying to work on getting him to just initiate doing something, which he just doesn't do. So that might be a reason why your son is refusing to do work. Is there too much noise, too much distraction that he can't focus? Is it, I think I already said this one, above his skill set, that whatever the work is. He doesn't have the skills to do it, and he doesn't want to ask. He can't read, he can't decode it, he has dysgraphia, he has dyslexia that's undiagnosed, or any of those things, dyscalculia, any of those learning disabilities. But they're going to get at the root as far as why is he refusing to do work, and what can we get him to do the work? Because it's just a skill that, you know, we all have to do work that's asked of us in life. So, oh good, I'm glad you found it helpful. And Michelle says she's glad she got an educational advocate. Good, I'm glad you got one. I hope you found a good one. See if I missed anything here. Nope, I guess that's it. So I said from about 6:15 or 6:30 to 7, so that's about it. If there are any other questions, I will answer them. If not, I'm going... Oh! Everybody see my kitchen table? If not, I am going to sign off. 1, 2, 3, going once, going twice. Okay, if not, have a good night. Thank you, and we'll check in again. Bye-bye.